Good afternoon, everyone. It's David Schlotthauer here with another detailed tropical weather outlook and discussion for Tuesday, June the 11th, 2024. So here's a look at the latest GOES 16 true color visible satellite imagery, courtesy of tropicaltidbits.com at Dr. Levi Cowan. And we have a few things to point out, really not a whole lot going on in the main development region of the Atlantic. Got a lot of Saharan dust coming off of Africa, keeping this area fairly stable with a lot of stratocumulus clouds moving from east to west, a signature that we have warm air aloft. It's also dry and stable. But in today's video, we're going to mainly spend a lot of our time on Invest 90L. So we have an area of disturbed weather that has formed just off the coast of Tampa, Florida. Here's a close-in, zoomed-in view on Invest 90L just off of Florida. So for reference, here is Florida right here. So we can see the coastline. Here's kind of the Big Bend of Florida. Here is Tampa, Florida. Down here, here's Cape Coral. And then down here is Key West, Florida. So we can kind of get an idea where Florida is. And when we play the animation, we can see there is certainly a circulation here. We have northeasterly flow wrapping all the way, almost all the way around here. It's very hard to make out down here to the south, but we have a lot of southwesterly flow being surging up from the south, and it's advecting a lot of this moisture in over Lake Okeechobee. And right here is where I think we do have a circulation. You can even see a little swirl right there. That's mainly where the disturbance actually is from where the NHC has this. And this is currently moving off to the northeast at about 10 to 15 miles an hour. So it is moving at a pretty good clip. But what this system is really going to have with it is quite a bit of moisture. And actually, before we do get to our modeling on that, the National Hurricane Center does highlight this at a 10% chance of tropical formation in the next 2 days, with a 20% chance in the next 5 days. For reference, we can go here and look at the National Hurricane Center text page where we can find some key points. So I'm going to read this as much as I can because I like to go into a lot of detail with my discussions. So Eastern Gulf of Mexico and offshore southeastern U.S., again dubbed 90L. This is the first invest of the hurricane season. A broad area of low pressure over the eastern half of Gulf of Mexico is producing a large area of disorganized showers and thunderstorms. This system is expected to move generally northeastward across the Florida during the next day or so, and move offshore of the southeastern U.S. And southeast coast later this week. Environmental conditions are expected to be generally unfavorable, although some slow development is possible when the system is offshore of the U.S. southeast coast. Regardless of development, heavy rainfall and significant flooding, I'm going to just add that in there, are already occurring and is expected to continue over portions of Florida during the next few days. For more information, you can go visit the National Hurricane Center or the Weather Prediction Office for more information. So this is how the SHIPS Statistical Hurricane Intensity Prediction System, which stands for SHIPS up here, the forecast for 90L is as suit. So we're not seeing a huge increase in winds in the forecast. In fact, in the next 3 days, the SHIPS model indicates that this is probably not going to exist for a whole lot. However, it is worth noting now the maximum potential intensity, if everything here was favorable, the shear was very light, the sea surface temperatures were up, which they are now, a lot of moisture in the atmosphere, and heat content was very volatile, the maximum intensity with this system could theoretically be 160 knots or a Category 5 hurricane. But when we look at this chart, of course, our wind shear is going to be more than 45 to even 50 knots over the next 3 days. So that is a no-go. So we're going to cross that out. When we look at our sea surface temperatures, they are definitely a check mark. So we can put a check on that. So sea surface temperatures are there. Moisture is pretty mediocre. So we're not seeing a whole lot of, not too much or too less. It's kind of in the middle. And our upper ocean heat content is theoretically there. So there are some opposing factors that will not allow 90L to thrive very well. And mainly that's the shear and some dry air influences that are going to not allow this to develop. All right, so when we take a look at our global computer models, this is the United States Global Computer Model, GFS. And when we look at our geopotential height, the vorticity is in the color shading. This is, again, what we look for. A lot of this bundling up of energy. It's more spread out, though, in this model run. What we need to look for is, does this actually bundle up as what the GFS actually shows? And some of the models are catching guard on this too. Actually, when we go back in time, so in 3 days, this actually, let's go back here. Let's go to the next 24 hours. We can see where our system here is. It's right over Florida. And again, it's not very organized by any means. It's very elongated, very disheveled. We saw the cloud pattern on satellite. Again, just clouds going in one direction, not fanning out in all directions, which would otherwise be a favorable environment for this system to be in. So instead, it's very lopsided. And so in the next 36 hours, so by Wednesday afternoon, June the 12th, this could try to organize a little bit more as what the GFS shows. And then furthermore, possibly in the next 60 to even 72 hours, where we do have an area of disturbed weather, a closed circulation. That's a fairly strong closed circulation. Could be a tropical depression. Would not be surprising if that actually ends up happening. This is a 3-day forecast. When we look at the Canadian model, also indicating something similar, but not as organized as what other models show. The European model, the 06Z run, we'll show you the 12Z in a little bit, also has the system in that same area. So there is some agreement that a disturbance will be here to the west of Bermuda and just to the east of the Carolina coast. This could send to some swells, but really not going to have a whole lot of impact. Instead, there's going to be a lot of rainfall with this system, as we talked about in yesterday's video. You're getting a lot of that today. Again, a lot of these bright colors indicating moderate to heavy rainfall, some flood concerns with this. This is going to continue for the next 60 hours. Even so, our disturbance is over here. We have a lot of moisture that is going to creep around this subtropical ridge that's over here. And we got westerlies going here, so that's really going to help to feed this moisture northward into Florida over the next few days. And we can see that here kind of continuing. It backs down a little bit by the time we go into the weekend, but it's going to be a little tough game here all the way through, say, Wednesday and Thursday with some periods of moderate to heavy rainfall. And maybe another surge of moisture later on in the period, but that's for another day to discuss. So now, when we take a look at how much rainfall is forecasted for central and southern Florida, there's quite a bit of rainfall on the way still to come. 4 days into the future here, we're looking at anywhere between about 10 to 12 inches of rainfall south of Tampa, Florida, Cape Coral, as well as Lake Okeechobee on the other side near Fort Lauderdale. This is not really good news at all. Even West Palm Beach as well as Delray Beach down here, going to get a lot of rainfall. Miami, Florida, including in that 4 inches of additional rainfall. That's an inch a day on average. And even over here near Ocala, Florida, maybe about an inch to a couple of inches of rain is anticipated. So some big time flooding potentially, even so this is not a declaration of a tropical depression or tropical storm just yet. All it takes is a fetch of moisture and enough lift aloft to get some moisture going into the area, and boy, there's going to be a lot of it. Looking at the European model on our weathermodels.com website, there will be a link in the description below this video. And this is the 850 millibar vorticity plot, 5,000 feet into the atmosphere. And as we go forward in time, you'll see again, there's our disturbance moving over Florida. Let's play this through and we can see how that does try to develop, and even a little bit of a curly Q at that. So again, somewhat of a organized system on the Euro, not very bullish on the model or on the system at all, which is good news. But just take note, Florida and maybe parts of the extreme southeastern coasts of the Carolinas might get some inclement weather as that passes on by. And then by the time we go into the day 5 and day 6, things are looking much quieter in the Atlantic thanks to the Saharan dust. Speaking of Saharan dust, it is going to be an inhibitor for a while when we actually look at that. And my thing is cut off, but ECMWF CAM's dust extension forecast here, showing us what the dust is going to look like. So higher concentrations on the scale are brighter colors. So this is a lot of dust up here on the scale. This is medium amounts of dust here, and low amounts are way down here. So we can see there is going to be some low to moderate amounts of dust, and we go forward in time. That dust is going to be moving off of Africa. Not a whole lot of concentration, to be quite honest. Maybe a little bit more enhanced here right off the coast of Africa. And then we go forward and forward. Oops. And this goes all the way out. I think I played this like a couple of times already. This goes out to 5 days from now. And we can see more Saharan dust, but no significant dust outbreaks by any means. If we look at the 12Z run, let's see how far that goes. Probably doesn't go out much further than what we looked at. And we can see, yeah, it's only a 5-day forecast. Unfortunately, I wish I can go further out in this, but this updates quite often from the European model, showing us that there's going to be some dust coming off of Africa, keeping things in check. Also, another thing to point out in this video is that sea surface temperatures continue to warm up in a hurry. Much of the Gulf of Mexico now running in the mid-80s, so 84 to 87 degrees Fahrenheit in waters. The Caribbean already on fire with sea surface temperatures, and all of these waters out here, even in the main development region, are virtually now 80 degrees Fahrenheit plus, which is very significant. When we look at the temperature anomaly right now from the NOAA Coral Reef Watch website from cyclonicwx.com, definitely very warm over here. 3 degrees Celsius plus. We are seeing those temperatures above average. We're already 3 to almost 4 degrees Celsius in the eastern half of the Gulf of Mexico. But with that fetch of moisture, this is probably going to be able to get mixed out pretty well. So we could expect some cooler anomalies to set up here in the eastern Gulf of Mexico in the next couple of days. But either way, the Gulf is really warm, well above average for this time of the year, reflecting sea surface temperatures that are seen in late August, early September. When we look at the upper ocean heat content, also very significant, especially in the northwestern Caribbean and even in that loop current in the Gulf of Mexico, looking at significant amounts of upper ocean heat content. And this is all above average for this time of the year. And in some regions of the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico, upper ocean heat content is so far above average, it's not usually seen until early September. So we're about 2 to 3 months ahead of schedule as far as our sea surface temperature department goes. All we need is the atmosphere to cooperate in a favorable environment. We get some vorticity maximums coming off of Africa, and the season is going to roll very quickly. But anyways, if you did enjoy today's detailed tropical weather outlook and discussion for Tuesday, June the 11th, 2024, on our disturbance 90L that is just off the coast of Tampa, Florida, please be safe, folks. This is a pretty substantial system bringing lots of heavy rainfall, some flooding, thunderstorms, and maybe even some severe weather to these portions. All I can say is to relay the information that I have for you all, and please use it to your discretion. If not, please follow the National Hurricane Center, your local weather office, or your local officials, including the Weather Prediction Center, for more information. Well, that's going to do it with today's video. Share, like, subscribe, and also leave a comment in the section below. And I'll be back with another update on this disturbance tomorrow.